the internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CBM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Need to estimate your duty? Perform a track and trace? Search for a declaration?
Then download the Jamaica Customs mobile app today. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
12 p.m.
The following program has been rated PG-13 and is suitable for viewers over the age of 13 years.
Yeah, man, this is Nadine Sutherland, cause we triumphant, because we not stay down. We
Thanks for joining us for CVM News at noon. It's Thursday, December 3, 2025. I'm Nika Lewis. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness will travel to New York, USA on official duties from Thursday, December 4 to Saturday, December 6. During the Prime Minister's absence, the Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, will be in charge of the government. There are growing concerns in Western Jamaica as several schools are still being used as shelters for residents displaced by Hurricane Melissa. President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mark Malava, is warning that asking students to return to campuses that are still operating as emergency shelters raises serious questions about safety and the overall readiness of these institutions to resume classes. In the meantime, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Marlon Morgan, says all hurricane victims currently housed in schools will have to be relocated before students are allowed to return to the classroom. Morgan notes, while the ministry understands the hardship facing displaced families, the safety and readiness of schools cannot be compromised.
The policy of the ministry is that where schools have resumed or have reopened, while shelterees are still occupying the schools, the shelterees are to be situated in a designated area, and there ought to be no contact with the student population, certainly, and the movement of those persons are to be, appropriately managed so that the ordinary to and fro of students and, of course, the school as it opens itself for teaching and learning is not disrupted, or at least interaction is kept at a minimum. Much of what happens at our public education institutions is driven by what the local reality, the local context dictate. Because in the case of Petersfield High, for example, they still have a sizable shelteree population. And at that school, what we are going to have to do is to deepen our collaboration with the Ministry of Local Government to ultimately find alternative accommodation for those shelters. Because as you can appreciate, our schools cannot persist as shelters in perpetuity, to the extent that we do need to have the resumption of school. We will need to mitigate learning loss.
Hague Primary in Falmouth, Trelawney is still being used as a shelter, leaving only the grade 6 students able to return to classes. Principal Damien Elvin says they are being displaced in the infant department, or rather placed in the infant department, while the rest of the students remain displaced. Mr. Elvin adds that guidance counselors and regional teams are providing psychosocial support.
We would have heard from the municipality that they are working as close to then the last time I heard to get them out, at least I'll get them in a space for themselves at least by January. We are hoping that it will be before that because we are trying to make sure that school is ready for January coming. Well, in the immediate community, we try to find them and see how we can engage them at least once per week. Some of them, I wouldn't want to say are impoverished in some respect, that we try to find them and give them something to, and that is through help from our community, so to speak, what we regard as our sponsors who come on board and try to help us.
In the wake of Hurricane Melissa, hundreds of families are still struggling with basic household needs, including cleaning clothes and bedding damaged by floodwaters. In response, Quartz Jamaica has partnered with Whirlpool to roll out free community laundry centers in some of the hardest hit areas. The initiative is aimed at bringing relief to residents who lost appliances or still have no access to running water or electricity. Meantime, December 3 marked the third day of a partial reopening of the Cambridge Primary School in a remote St. James community. CVM Television chose that institution as part of our Jamaica Rebuilds initiative as we travel to the parishes severely affected by Category 5 Hurricane Melissa in October. With our roundup, here is Carolyn Brown.
The CVM Rebuild Jamaica team journeyed 17 miles from the city of Montego Bay in St. James in a southeasterly direction in search of the Cambridge Primary School. Now, this township of over 10,000 residents is a major connection point for St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. It boasts the only primary school renamed after being relocated to the community in 1976, replacing the original school which dates back to the 1930s. What we found was a near 50-year-old institution, its building ravaged by the weather phenomenon, void of its population of 282 students, 12 teachers, and a guidance counselor. Principal Audriana Reid Gongasing, who completes the 14-member staff, was on hand, and like the school's motto, through difficulties to the stars, was ready to rise again with all the support available.
CVM is here live on location to help us with our cleanup efforts, and we really appreciate them coming out to do so.
As for the children, they have been accounted for, and despite the traumatic encounter, the messages are encouraging.
I've spoken to some parents. Some of the students really want to come back to school, but not a few of them. It's good for them to get a little break and be away from school. But overall, most of them want to be back at school. It has been very hard for a lot of parents because in our community here, a number of them have lost their roof, and it's really difficult for them. There's no water, there's no light.
The news is there was a surprising 90% turnout for school on Monday for the grades 4, 5 and 6 pupils eager to get on with their prep studies. CVM was just in time to fuel the cleanup exercise, ensuring 4 classrooms were equipped to facilitate teaching learning activities. Crumbled zinc sheets and other debris scattered across the compound were cleared, as were the corridors and the stairways, ensuring inside and outside safe spaces for the little ones. Now, with so many uniforms lost in the deluge, it's come as you are, life goes on.
The roof of the second story, it's completely gone. Some doors are missing. We have another section with just one story. Some part of the roof is also gone. We have damage to a section of our kitchen. The perimeter wall, a section of it is partially damaged but not totally. One of the classrooms, the windows have been blown out. That is one of the lower level classrooms. The windows have been blown out, and a part of the office, a window was also blown out.
The reality is the level of destruction, downed trees and wires will take some time getting used to. All the changes, in fact, for all. Meanwhile, in partnership with World Central Kitchen, Mother's Foods, Buster and Water, CVM distributed almost 1,000 warm meals, buns, water, beverages and ice to the grateful residents. Supported by company chairman Dr. Delroy Howell, America Friends of Jamaica Foundation and the Ark Manufacturing, CVM stands committed to provide necessary building materials to continue restoring the school to its former glory. In fact, on December 8, grades 1 to 3 students will be back at school as well. Curlin Brown, CVM News.
Stay with us for our live interview segment when we return.
Looking to boost performance and profitability? Let Return on Investment Consulting Limited turn strategy into success. We deliver AI-powered reporting, KPI management, and strategic planning services that work. From software to certification, empower your executives to drive success. Email us at info@roicltd.com or call us today. Return on Investment Consulting Limited. Strategy, performance, results.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Welcome back. As Jamaica marks National Disabilities Week, advocates say the impact of Hurricane Melissa has exposed long-standing gaps in how the country prepares for and responds to disasters involving persons with disabilities. From evacuation challenges to shelter accessibility and disrupted support services, many individuals with disabilities say they were left vulnerable during and after the storm. Disability groups argue that more inclusive planning is needed, pointing out that emergency information is not always accessible and some shelters still lack basic accommodations for persons who are blind, deaf, or have mobility impairments. But government officials say work is ongoing to improve shelter readiness and strengthen disaster protocols to ensure no one is left behind in times of crisis. So what has Hurricane Melissa revealed about Jamaica's preparedness for protecting persons with disabilities, and what must change going forward? Here now to discuss these issues is Mr. Alistair McLean, Vice President of the Combined Disabilities Association. Welcome, Mr. McLean.
Good afternoon.
Nika.
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great, and I hope that you continue to be well, sir. But National
Thank you very much.
Disabilities... You're welcome.
Just one point of information. I'm actually the Vice Chairman and not the Vice President of the Combined Disabilities Association.
All right. I note that, Vice Chairman of the National Combined Disabilities Association. So, Mr. McLean, National Disabilities Week, it comes at a time when many people with disabilities are still recovering from Hurricane Melissa. But what were some of the biggest challenges they faced during the storm?
Well, some of the greatest challenge that persons with disabilities would have faced through the storm, you have several of the shelters that frankly are not designed to meet the accessibility needs of persons with physical disabilities. You don't have, a lot of these shelters were built long before the building code was modified So you have challenges where many of these shelters did not have ramps. And even when you look at the interior, there is not a lot of consistent, there's what you call inconsistency in the interior. So the door spaces are not wide enough to accommodate wheelchairs, and also persons who are blind would oftentimes hitting obstacles because of the lack of consistency where the interior is concerned. Those are some of the challenges. Of course, even where the messaging is concerned, a lot of the media houses, they were not using closed caption to facilitate persons who are deaf. And you also have interpreters, lack of interpreters by, the different medium who were dispensing messages. So those are some of the challenges that persons with disability face throughout Hurricane Melissa.
Indeed, you took me right to number 2 and went through it, because I wanted to know, in terms of the communication accessibility, how difficult it was for members of your community who would have had challenges with not being able to read the captions, not being able to see easy to read formats or all of that, and how you believe rather that those could have been improved.
Well, absolutely. Those would not be able to be improved within the hurricane, but a crisis is never a thing to waste, of course. So the first place we need to start is by ensuring that someone from the disability community sits on any national disaster preparedness committee going forward. So that is the first thing. Someone who has broad knowledge of accessibility tools, particularly where communication is concerned for persons with disabilities. Because of course, it's not just about persons, when you look at, it's not just about blind persons, for example, having maybe braille or audio, but even persons who are low vision persons. I mean, even the size of the font of the text, it need to be structured in a way that they are able to read it. Yeah? Yes. And even the website, web accessibility is one of the challenge with communication as well. So you have websites where the links are not titled, and the headings that will take you to different pages on the website are not properly tagged. And even where there are images, there are no alternate text that properly describe what is in the images. So some of those things will go a far way in terms of assisting persons with disability. Well, it's not a matter of should, because already we know where the impact of climate change, so we have to adapt. So when one of these disasters are on the horizon, we should be in a position to ensure that persons with disabilities are properly informed to prepare themselves. Yes, so these tools will definitely go a far way in assisting. So of course, it's all about inclusion, including persons with disabilities as part of the development plan for any mitigation process where disaster risk management is concerned.
Understood. So what role then can community groups or local authorities and families even play to ensure people with disabilities are not overlooked, especially during emergencies?
Well, of course, first, I think what would happen is for community groups, you can always reach out to the different, if you identify persons with disabilities, and I'm talking to community groups, whether it be churches, other youth clubs, family. I mean, once you have persons with disabilities living in your community, you can reach out to different stakeholder groups. So you have Jamaica Association for the Deaf, you have Jamaica Society for the Blind, you have the Combined Disabilities Association. These are some of the stakeholder interest groups that represent persons with disabilities. You can reach out to these groups to ascertain what would be good to help persons with disabilities weather the storm. the reality is that what we are looking for is equity, and there are different needs for different persons with disabilities. So you have a lot of expertise that lies within these stakeholder groups. So I would implore community groups, churches, and so forth, other civil society groups and so as well, to reach out to these organizations to see how best to represent persons with disabilities. And of course, you have on the national level, from the government side of things, the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities.
I'm going to segue a little bit, but how many of your members, if any, were impacted directly or severely by Hurricane Melissa?
Well, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me right now, but the numbers run into the thousands. You have persons from the community